Hello, and welcome to another edition of Just 5 Minutes in Acts, short 5-minute reflections from the New Testament book called the Acts of the Apostles. I'm Clay Brown, Associate Pastor for Equipping Ministry at Memorial Drive Presbyterian Church, Houston, Texas. And today we're going to take one passage, one thought, one implication. And by implication, I simply mean that if the thought's on target, then here's a potential change in your life and mine. The passage, Acts 2, 1 through 13. I want to focus on verses 7, 8, and then 11 through 13. Let me read them aloud from the New Living Translation. They were completely amazed. "How can this be?" they exclaimed. "These people are all from Galilee, and yet we hear them speaking in our own native languages. And we all hear these people speaking in our own languages about the wonderful things God has done." They stood there amazed and perplexed. "What can this mean?" they asked each other. But others in the crowd ridiculed them, saying, "They're just drunk, that's all." All right, what's the one thought here? God's desire is to reach the whole world, and He's announcing His intention here at Pentecost to do that by focusing on many of the nations to which Jews immigrated over time. Most of these nations are in the Middle East, Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey, Europe, and North Africa. Like you took your compass and you put the point of that compass where Jerusalem is, remember geometry class, and drew a circle of 1,000 miles around. All these folks were in town for the Pentecost Festival, one of the fun feasts of the Jewish year, celebrating God's faithfulness in the harvest. And they hear these redneck Galileans celebrating God's story in their own languages. And some want to know what's going on. What does it mean? In other words, what's God up to here? And then others are pretty closed off from ever considering the possibility that God may be up to something amazing. They're just drunk, that's all. You know, you'd think they would have been more aware of what drunk people actually do. You know, getting hammered and mastering a new language usually don't go hand in hand. You know, at the little church-related college I went to back in the day, my one experience with getting blotto had little to do with speaking a new language and much more to do with worshiping the porcelain god. Got any more cliches and idioms about drunkenness I can share here? Move on. Some say what we have going on here is a reversal of what happened at the Tower of Babel in Genesis chapter 11, the confusion of all the languages. Why? Because God is bringing about humanity's redemption through Jesus Christ, and all these people are going to go home and share what they've seen and what they've heard. Okay, what's one implication of this thought? Here it is. It shouldn't surprise us today that a lot of people mock and ignore what God's doing through Jesus Christ. After all, humans can all view the same evidence and come to radically different conclusions about it. What makes sense to one is incomprehensible to the other. For one person, the curtains open, the heavens sing. For another person, it's like listening to the teacher on all the Peanuts cartoons. Wah, 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 wah. The theological genius and forefather of a lot of things Presbyterian, John Calvin, whose style of robe I wear partly to honor him and partly to keep me from having to iron my shirts, tells a story from his own experience. I quote Calvin here. "If the same sermon is preached, say, to 100 people, 20 receive it with the ready obedience of faith, while the rest hold it valueless, or laugh, or hiss, or loathe it." You know, it makes me feel better about my own inadequacies to discover that the great Protestant reformer was not universally beloved or believed. 20% success rate? That seems low. But not really when you think about it. One of the great mysteries of life is why, how, and when some people respond to the call of God through Jesus Christ and others don't. Ultimately, the Holy Spirit is the only true evangelist with a capital E, and no one comes to God without the Holy Spirit leading him or her by the hand. Some will mock. some will ignore, and some will trust and follow Christ as Lord. Well, I think that's enough for now. Questions? Email me at cbrown@mdpc.org. That's cbrown@mdpc.org. Next time, one thought, one implication from Acts chapter 2, verses 14 through 41. Thanks. God bless. Take care.